Coming up on today's show, we've got some news coming from Atlanta with the Falcons potentially making a big splash move. We'll talk about that, plus some injury news to get to as Kyle Pitts has popped up on the injury report. So we'll break down everything we know going into week one. But let's start with some of the maybe less sexy news, but it could turn into sexy news, which is Jessie Bates had his contract restructured, which actually freed up $7.5 million in cap space. Now, quick reminder. What is a restructure, everyone? It is not a pay cut. A contract restructure is simply taking a player's base salary, bringing it down to the minimum, and then prorating whatever fat you just trimmed off over the remaining years of their contract. You lower their cap hit for 1 year, you raise future cap hits. Now, the Falcons have an open roster spot. They traded Taylor Heinicke away, who was on their initial 53-man roster, and they never added anyone to the 53-man roster. So a lot of people are starting to wonder, hey, did the Falcons just Falcons just restructure Jessie Bates' contract to free up cap space to make some big splash signing? I don't think so. For starters, the Falcons had to get cap compliant. They were actually below the salary cap. They had to get back in the green. And restructuring a contract is a great way to do that. Now, you don't want to go crazy with restructures because if you push a player's salary cap hits to the end of their contract and you want to move on from that player at the end of their contract, you are stuck with the big dead cap hit. But Jessie Bates, after his first season, doesn't look like a guy that you're going to want to move on from before his contract is up. So ultimately, I don't think this was a move to go out and make a big splash signing. I think this was simply just the Falcons giving themselves some breathing room, putting some extra money in their pocket just in case they want to make a midseason trade or maybe a midseason signing because an injury pops up. You want to have some flexibility, and that's what I think this move boils down to. Plus, look at the top remaining free agents. None of these guys are going to be commanding $5 million, right? If the Falcons wanted to go sign Hunter Renfrow, they could go sign Hunter Renfrow for the vet minimum. Like, they don't need to have an extra $7.5 million in cap space via Jessie Bates to afford any of these players. Like, the most expensive one I could argue would be Xavien Howard. And we saw Jessie Bates just come off an all-pro season and sign 1 year, $8 million. Howard, a little bit older and not coming off an all-pro season, he's probably signing a 1 year, $3 million contract. So if the Falcons really wanted to go get one of those players, they wouldn't have to create a big amount of cap space to afford them. They could just go out and sign them. So my prediction is when it comes to this last roster spot, we'll see someone elevated from the practice squad. Maybe they sign one of these players, but I feel like if they wanted to go sign one of them, they would have done it by now just to kind of get the ball rolling and get them into the facility as soon as possible so they can get up to speed and get, with the program. So I feel like that final roster spot could be, hey, we're going to elevate a couple of practice squad players for week one and let it be a little bit of a competition. I mean, the Falcons did just add quarterback Nathan Peterman to their practice squad. That could be hey, we're going to let him kind of pick up the playbook a little bit, see how he performs in practice, and then we could elevate him to the active roster to replace Taylor Heinicke. Next up on the show, we're going to talk about some Kyle Pitts injury news as he popped up with a hamstring injury. So we'll break down everything going on in that front. But first, I do want to give a quick shout out to our great sponsor today, Game Time. Game Time is a feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, download the Game Time app and redeem that code CHAT Sports for $20 off your first purchase. So if you want to go catch a Falcons game, maybe an Atlanta United game, a Braves game, or any other sporting event in your area, visit Game Time first because they're giving the Dirty Birds $20 off their first purchase. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now, let's get back to the Kyle Pitts injury news, who popped up with a hamstring injury, which Raheem Morris said that he's been dealing with for a little bit now. But overall, the impression I got from Raheem Morris speaking to the media today was he did not sound concerned about Kyle Pitts. And then Kyle Pitts himself said he is going to be 100% for Sunday. So I don't want anyone looking at this as a major scare that he might not be ready to roll against Pittsburgh this upcoming week. No, it sounds like all signs are pointing to Kyle Pitts playing. I think he said that maybe he'll miss 1 or 2 plays. I'm not quite sure if that meant like in practice or if on Sunday, but regardless, there's not a whole lot to be concerned about, but there is something to at least monitor here because picking up a soft tissue injury before the season even gets underway, I mean, we all learned with Julio Jones that those soft tissue injuries, they don't really go away and they tend to linger. And while maybe you play, you may not be at 100% because you can't quite go 100%. Now, here's what Coach Morris said on Pitts. Went out there and practiced the other day for us and did a really good job. The hamstring hadn't affected him too much. So, like I've been saying, not ideal because of the soft tissue injury element. Those are not good injuries to pick up for guys who are very reliant on their speed and twitchiness before the season even gets underway. But overall, I'm not very concerned. Hopefully, it's something that just kind of goes away with time over the next few weeks, and he can still be a very effective player because he's had an awesome summer, and the reviews are sky high for number 8 as someone that could be one of Kirk Cousins' favorite targets after Drake London. Now, another player that's popped up on the injury report, backup linebacker Nate Landman. He's been dealing with a quad injury. Similar to Pitts, he's limited. However, it sounds a little bit more upbeat about Landman than Pitts, but still, both these players in a really good spot. So for Pitts, it all comes down to this year, I feel like, right? I mean, they picked up his 5th-year option. However, this has to be the year where it all comes together. 2 down seasons after a record-setting rookie year for a tight end, 1,026 yards. But the lack of touchdowns for the unicorn he is, the size and speed, he should be an immediate target in the red zone every single time the Falcons get there. So hopefully that's something that Raheem Morris will capitalize on more this season because Arthur Smith, who we're going to see week 1, did not really take advantage of of Kyle Pitts' unicornness, right? The size and speed combination coming out of Florida. So quick, tough question before we start the season. Who do you think will have more yards this year? Wide receiver 2, Darnell Mooney, or starting tight end Kyle Pitts? I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts, but I think you can make a decent argument for Darnell Mooney. I mean, look what Jordan Addison did last year for the Vikings. Now, Cousins and Addison didn't overlap for the whole year because of his injury, but still, he got off to a really nice start, and Justin Jefferson was lined up opposite of him. So don't sleep too much on Darnell Mooney, but I'll be typing my 8 for Kyle Pitts, but I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. So, other notes that came out of Morris's presser today. Team reporter Tori McElhaney, she tweeted out, LOL, Raheem Morris on Steelers prep. Mike Tomlin told me to prepare for Justin Fields. So, we did. The Falcons should prepare for some Justin Fields packages, as that's what Tomlin somewhat, not even hinted at, but kind of flat out said. Now, what could those packages look like? I'm not quite sure how much trust Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith are going to install in Justin Fields week 1. Like, initially I think, okay, RPO. He's got the athleticism where you have to respect his running element, but at the same time, he's a quarterback, so he can easily, start dotting up defenders, which he did last year against the Falcons at Soldier Field. But again, it comes down to trust. Is Arthur Smith in his first time as the Steelers offensive coordinator and play caller going to put the ball in his backup quarterback's hands to make tough decisions downfield? I'm hesitant to believe so. So I think they're going to use Justin Fields as more of a rusher than a true passer. So for the linebackers, I think their job is to kind of play quarterback spy when Fields comes onto the field and not worry too much about him going over the top of the defense and deep to someone. Another tweet from McElhaney. This is from Raheem Morris, quote, to not let him go out there and wreck the game. That's the game plan. Raheem Morris on TJ Watt's effect on the game and combating it Sunday. Yeah, there's not a great recipe for slowing down TJ Watt. You can throw a double team at him, but that's going to free up Alex Highsmith and a couple other good pass rushers the Steelers have elsewhere. The game plan for slowing down TJ Watt is you need your offensive tackles to have a great game. You need Jake Matthews and Caleb McGarry to bring their best. And hopefully you can kind of limit the damage, get the ball out quickly. That's what pass rushers hate the most. they make their money on sacks. They can't sack the quarterback if the ball is out of his hands in under 2 seconds. So for Kirk Cousins, who is kind of a master, by the way, at getting the ball out quickly, this somewhat lines up pretty well for him. Like, obviously, there's cases where he takes sacks and maybe holds on to the ball for a little bit too long. But by and large, like, Kirk Cousins is a quarterback who gets the ball in his hands and quickly goes through his progressions. Pre-snap, he already has an idea as to where he's going with the football based on what the defense gives him. And then guys like TJ Watt, they never get a chance, and there's nothing that pisses those players off more than when they get to the quarterback and they find him just standing and watching the play because he's already passed the football. So that's priority number one. Like, you can talk about double teaming TJ Watt. I think the first step to reducing his impact on the game is getting the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands as quickly as possible. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss a single thing, and we'll catch up with you next time.